The one thing that I think was a surprise to me was that you could have such an impact on what was supposed to be your intelligence by just really, really studying for these exams in order to get in.
This is Journey to Point B, where you can find success stories of people who have achieved the same goals you're striving for. I'm your host, Lucia, Csoma, and it's my hope that these stories will provide motivation for your own journey to Point B. Let's begin. Thomas, it's so wonderful to have you in my show. Welcome.
It's great to be here, Lucia. Thanks for inviting me.
Yes. Thomas, you have achieved a goal that a lot of people are striving for, is to have a Ph.D. And you chose a Ph.D. in industrial organizational psychology. What sparked that desire, that motivation to go on this journey?
Yeah, that's kind of a profound question, actually. Looking back on it in retrospect, I was a waiter at the time I applied to graduate school. So I was serving people in a club called the Wiano Club on Cape Cod. And I just had the thought one day, this is fine, but I don't want to do this the rest of my life. So what's kind of the next logical thing I could do? And I had an undergraduate degree in psychology. And of course, you don't make a lot of money with that degree, and you end up doing things like waiting on tables. So I thought, well, I don't want to do this forever. So I just thought I'll try applying to graduate school and started investigating good places that offered an IO or industrial organizational psychology program.
Mm-hmm. And how did you go about it? Like, how did you reach this goal? What was the journey?
Yeah, so there's actually two parts to the goal that were challenging. The first one was just getting into a program because it's very selective. I assume this is true of almost any PhD program. You don't just pay money and, fill out an application and you're in. The program I was in had 200 applications the year that I applied, and they let in 6 people. So, yeah, that's a big challenge, is just getting in. And I had, as a high schooler, I had taken a SAT, the entrance exam for undergraduate, and I only scored at an average level. And I thought, wow, I'm not going to get into graduate school with an average score on a graduate records exam. So, yeah, that was a huge barrier at the time, was just figuring out, how can I do really well on this exam that really determines to a large measure whether or not you're able to get into some of these programs. I think the key learning point there for me was, although people tell you like your potential or your intelligence is this fixed state, like you've got a certain level, I do not believe that's true, because in getting ready to apply for graduate school, I took about 3 months. And I went through a program with Stanley Kaplan. Stanley Kaplan's this nationwide test preparation agency. And what I did is I treated it just like a job. I went from like 8 to 5 every single day, and I studied for this exam. The thing about Stanley Kaplan was they had everything organized in such a way that you could access the material easily. You could get tested regularly to see if you were learning what you needed to learn. So, I brushed up on my algebra and my geometry and then verbal comprehension, and just really studied it like I was doing a job. So maybe 40 or 50 hours a week, really just going in and doing that. And then when I took the exam was like effortless. It really was. After that much preparation. And then there was a second part to the exam, which was all based on psychology. Since this was a psychology graduate program, you have to know a lot about psychology. Well, it had been a couple of years since I had graduated with my undergrad. And so again, going through Kaplan, they had a program specializing in psychology. You didn't have anybody there teaching you, but you had everything organized. So there's all these different fields of psychology, and you had these materials on each field. I remember I had a little apartment in Boston at the time, and I had all my study materials, and I literally like plastered the walls all the way around in my room with the information. So like developmental psychology was here, experimental psychology was here, social psychology was here. And I just had, so I could literally like just walk around my room. And that really helped me with my memory, because when I took the exam, I remember, so there'd be like a question on social psychology, and I could close my eyes. I could see that was on this wall. And, I had so much information there that it just helped me tremendously. So I ended up doing really, really well, two or more standard deviations above the mean on these exams. And it wasn't because I got smarter between high school and then. I think my aptitude was the same. It was just the motivational part of it was very, very high. So anyway, that's how I got in.
I'm curious, Thomas, what was the main motivation? Like, what was the fire? What was the vision that you had as you started on this journey? Because I assume that being so committed to that preparation, there was something that really
Yeah.
sparked.
I think it was a push and pull at the same time. Push and pull at the same time. So the kind of the avoidance motivation was, I don't want to do this all my life. I want to do something more meaningful. So that's like, I don't want to do this. The more positive aspect was, I think I really, at that point, I had a high need for achievement. I wanted to achieve something. I was looking for something really meaningful to do with my life. And like, I guess a lot of people at my age at the time, I was like, kind of searching, you want to find something that gives you a genuine purpose. And so, yeah, I do think there was both the push and the pull to it, which gives you, I think, more motivation than either one would separately. A little bit of desperation and a little bit of a drive for achievement can take you a long way.
And I love how you pointed out your preparation, that oftentimes we are working towards a goal and it's so intimidating and we feel like
Yeah.
we're never going to go there. But if we take it one step at a time, and if
Yes.
we get prepared, if we are committed as you considered it as a full-time job,
Yeah.
then, the more we do it, the more we increase our chances to get to where we want.
It's true. I was just going to say, and so then you get in. I was thrilled to be in. I ended up going to a really good program at Ohio State University. And then you find out, I guess this is like life too, right? You get, okay, I achieved something super for me. And then you find out, well, that's great, but the next day there's something else. And the something else is, okay, you're in the program. Now you've got to actually survive the program, because it's a lot of people drop out of doctoral programs when they find out, how tough it is. Your life really has to revolve around being in a doctoral program. You don't do this as kind of a hobby or something. It's like full-time focus for 4 or 5 years. And yeah, so there's a number of barriers to that. One is a lot of the classes are just hard, and specifically for me, the statistics classes were a real challenge. I was okay in math, but not great. And we had to take a sequence of 3 statistics classes: inferential statistics, correlation and regression, and then one on something called structural equation modeling. And so you had to take these 3. And then the first semester in inferential statistics, I really struggled. I mean, I struggled. It was like a different way of thinking. There was a lot of calculations involved. But by the time I got through the third one, I felt, okay, I'm starting to get this. It's a way of looking at things, and then it all starts to kind of gel. But it took me, a good year for that to happen. And then I found out that you could get a minor in statistics by taking 3 more classes, which I did. And I ended up with a minor in statistics, which I would have never have believed. And again, it wasn't brains, believe me. It was just, one step at a time. And a big part of it is you just refuse to quit. You just don't quit,
Mm-hmm.
and because if you quit, you're absolutely not going to make it. You have no chance.
Yes.
And even if you stick with it, it's not definite. There's no guarantee, but you move in that direction.
Yeah, you definitely increase your chances if you try. Thomas, as you enter the program, what would you say was a challenge that would keep coming back and back? Like one challenge that you constantly had to work around?
Yeah, that's a good question too. Once I got past the first 2 years, there was a challenge that really lasted for the last 3 years of the program. So I lived with it every day. And that challenge was starting and completing a dissertation. A dissertation had to be a piece of unique creative work uh, involving research where you created hypotheses, you designed a study, you found a sample, you collected the data, you analyzed the data, and you wrote it up. And so you don't graduate until that's done. I mean, that's hanging over your head in a way. And, there's a rigorous evaluation. There's a committee of faculty that you have to convince that you know your stuff and that the dissertation is worthwhile. So yeah, I would say that was something I lived with for at least 3 years.
And what has been the most helpful thing in completing that dissertation?
Yes, there's a couple of things that come to mind right away. One is there was a group of doctoral students in my program who, we commiserated with each other. Everybody was going through the same thing. It was hard for everybody. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and you have a class above you, people who are one step further along. There's a class below you, people who are coming up in the program, and so you draw on the knowledge that based on what other people have gone through, especially those who are a step or two ahead of you in the program. You see, okay, it was hard, but there are people graduating, so that gives you confidence. It can be
It's
done.
possible.
Yeah, right. It's possible. It's possible. So that was really important, having a group of friends and the camaraderie there. And then I think really just the basic thing is you just work like hell. You have your focus is very clear. So that helps a lot. You know where you're
Mhm.
going to direct your time. And I lived on campus in a graduate dormitory. And so everybody was just kind of in the same boat. Our lives revolved around graduate school. And, you just spent a lot of time doing the work that you had to do to graduate. So I think the social aspect to it and having people that you liked and respected and would provide advice, and you would turn around and provide advice to those coming up, so you felt like a mentor at the same time, and just being willing to do the work. I think that was really important.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Thomas, for sharing that wisdom. What stands out to me is just putting in the work, stay in the game, and finding that support and be willing to get the support that you need, and never give up. As you said, just
Yeah.
never give up. Take it one day at a time and never give up.
Most of it was not surprising, in terms of what it takes motivationally, uh, like you just summarized. The one thing that I think was a surprise to me was that you could have such an impact on what was supposed to be like your intelligence or your long-term cognitive ability by just really, really studying for these exams, in order to get in. Starting off, I was like, I don't know if it can be done, because if it's true that intelligence or cognitive ability is this thing that you're born with and it doesn't change much over a short period of time, I'm probably in trouble. I'm not going to get in. But I learned you can't really trust the experts in some ways. There's some things that they're not, they might be experts, but even the experts don't know everything. And the Educational Testing Service is a group that creates these exams, and they've got probably a vested interest in claiming, these exams tap long-term ability, because if they don't, then the exams aren't very worthwhile. So they've got a biased vision of what cognitive ability is, and I just learned that whether you want to call it intelligence or whatever, it's as much a function of motivation as anything else. Intelligence is supposed to be, I remember this definition, I'm trying to remember the exact words. It's very simple. Intelligence is the ability to learn, right? The ability to learn. Well, where does that come from? Some of it might be innate. I mean, some people have better brains than others, I guess. I'm not sure about that, but I assume. But the ability to learn is also a huge function of just how hard you work. So, yeah, and your strategy for approaching your work. So that was a big surprise for me, that you can get further than you think you can, based on what many people assume to be their innate limitations.
Yeah, it's all about having that growth mindset,
Yeah.
thinking that you can change your narrative. You're not born with it. Thomas, what is one goal that you're working towards these days?
Yeah, so I retired from the University of South Florida in May. I had a 30 plus year career as a college professor in the business school, most recently in University of South Florida. And so I started a consulting firm called Stratafy. We do consulting and talent management. We offer products that can be used to help companies hire individuals more effectively, do a better job in selecting the best people for a position. We do training, performance management, compensation. So, yeah, it's a huge challenge because it uses a different set of skills to get a business off the ground than it does to, do a good job as a college professor. But still, some of the same things we've been talking about, I believe, are probably relevant. You got to show up every day, you got to work hard, you got to try to be creative in what you're doing and stick with it. So, but yeah, that's a huge challenge for me right now, and learning about things like marketing and how to build meaningful relationships that help people know who you are and learn how to trust you. I think that's very important.
Yeah, definitely. So, Thomas, if anyone that is listening would like to learn more about Stratify, get in contact with you, what would be the best way for them to do so?
Yeah, there's two ways. One is you can reach me by email anytime at Becker, Becker, at Stratify, LLC. So it's STRATAFYLLC.org, O-R-G. And we have a website at www.stratify.us. You can get on there. You can contact me directly, schedule a meeting if you wish, and learn about our products and services.
And I will add that information in our show notes as well.
Great.
So thank you so much, Thomas, for
My
joining.
pleasure. Great
Thank you
talking
for
with you.
sharing your wisdom. And I wish to have you back and talking about how Stratify is working in the future.
All right. Yes, I hope we have something to talk about.
I'm sure we will.
Thank you, Lucia.
Thank you.